I'm Michael Pauly, and you're listening to The Featured Voice with Jacques, an audio flow podcast series. Lend these 6 narrators your ears, because they deserve to be heard.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Season 3 of The Featured Voice, Episode 2, where I have a chance to chat with someone that I kind of ran into from a book that I had a chance to listen to by Christy Hagwood, and I fell in love with his voice. I mean, his voice, his performance was just amazing. He played an angel named Ryan, and the book was called Hell's Gift, I believe, and he just did a wonderful job with it. And I immediately had to reach out to him and see if I could get him on the show. And so I'm so happy to announce that today we will be chatting with Troy Duran. Hi, Troy. Welcome to The Featured Voice. How are you?
I'm good, Jacques. How are you?
I'm doing well. Did you guys hear how you said my name? It just sounds so... Say it again.
Jacques.
Yeah. I could just put that on my phone.
You've brought sexy back to the word Jacques, or to the name Jacques. You're probably too young to remember Jacques Cousteau. Do you remember those shows?
I know. He's French.
Oh, yeah. He did those documentaries from the sea. He'd be like...
Yeah.
Is day number 24 on the ocean, and the Pierre is starting to look pretty good. And, but I mean, it was the cinematography was really great, but his narration was just so dry, and he always wore like the same thing. He was this old guy, bald, with his like fisherman's cap on his head, and so he kind of like made the name Jacques kind of like boring and.
Well, I'm totally not boring.
You are totally not boring. You bring sexy back to the name, so congratulations.
Yes. Well, thank you. It's so funny you say that because just a couple months ago, I just went by Jock, right? And so my mom was like, that sounds a little harsh. It doesn't sound, feminine at all. I'm like, but everybody calls me Jock, Mom. And she's like, well, your name is Jacqueline. And so after 40 years or so pronouncing my name is Jacqueline, my mom finally tells me that I've been saying my name wrong for this long period of time.
You're not 40.
I will be.
Wow.
Well, whenever this episode airs, I turn 40 in November. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I swear to God, and I'm not, being all flirty with you, but I would have said that you were probably maybe 27 to 28.
Really? That makes me feel good. I think we got to put the clapping sound effect in there because you just won the award.
No,
oh my gosh.
I was like, wow, this young lady really has it going.
Oh, well, now you can say that old lady really has it going.
You got a ways to go. You got a little ways to go. You're just hitting your prime.
Yeah, that's what they tell me. 40 is a good year. And so here I am having an opportunity to chat with you and learn about you because I think we kind of connected over a book that you narrated for Christy. Wait, don't tell me because I see the cover. It was The Good Side of... Wait, not The Good Side of Sin. Oh, Hell's Gift. You did exactly. Hell's Gift. And I heard you do that book. And I was like, man, I got to find out who's this guy behind this voice and giving these characters, we talked about how you came up with the characters' voices and you kind of pieced them together. And that was fun. And then we're here and I get to chat with you all by myself and I get to look at you in your studio, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, this is the studio. If I could grab so I just bought my webcam today because I hadn't had any use for it before today, and I finally got it all set up and everything. But the little USB cord, so my computer is in the room that's right behind my studio, so that's because it's quieter that way, right? But so I have to like fish the USB cord from the camera all the way through the wall and into the computer. And so it like barely reached. I couldn't put it up on the monitor. And it's kind of funny. Like I'm sitting here, when I look up at the monitor like this, I can see the picture of your beautiful face right there in the middle of, but it looks like I'm like, staring off into like, I don't know, like Stevie Wonder, I don't know who I'm looking at. But so anyway, yeah, so I had to put my USB camera down here. So it's kind of funny. I'm sitting here like looking at the camera, imagining that I'm talking to you. But
Oh my
yeah,
gosh,
so
that's funny.
but I was going to say, so I would pick up my camera so that I could show you around my studio, but I can't because it's like sitting there like precariously balanced on my little phone modem. But yeah, I just moved here in April, and so I'm kind of got like, if you can see behind me, there's like stacks of foam back in the back, and I've got some of the stuff up on the walls. So, I still have a little ways to go, and maybe I should put up some pictures or something because
You should, but you have a big space. I've seen people have let me into their booth. That's what I'm going to call it, and
uh,
some of them are really small, and yours looks kind of large. Like I could do a cartwheel back there. There's so
you
much
could,
space.
yeah,
I
you
mean,
could.
I wouldn't do it though because I'd hurt myself, but the thought
Uh,
is that there's space.
yeah, yeah. You're not very tall, right? You could probably do a cartwheel.
First of all, let's talk about that. So, with a
Okay.
cartwheel, you are placing all of your weight on your two arms, right? So, if you
Okay.
don't have really good upper body strength, I would not recommend trying to do a cartwhile,
Oh yeah.
especially at that age where if you break something, it takes a long time for it to repair.
Once you get up over that one hill, when you're like, oh, okay, 40 behind me now I can start being careful about the things that I do.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
I'm very
things.
careful about things like that. Is don't run too fast, and
Yeah,
arthritis likes to come in, so don't turn the air on and sleep under the fan.
yeah.
All those things you start thinking about. You're not 18
Oh,
anymore. You can't be
oh,
dropping it like it's hot on the dance floor. It's more like chair dance. Sit in the chair and move the top part of your body around, and
yeah.
that's kind of how it goes.
Isn't it funny? You look at old people on the dance floor, or like old people doing anything, right?
Yeah.
Like they bend over to pick up some mail, and they're like, "Oh God!" And they make that noise and stuff. And it used to be like we would laugh at them, but now I'm like, "Oh, okay." And
Yeah,
now I understand why they do that.
exactly.
Like things get creakier and achier. I
That's
uh, I
awful.
bought my I have three kids,
Uh-huh.
and two of them are around the same age. My daughter is about 26, and my son just below her is 23, and then
Mm-hmm.
I have a little guy who's only 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I bought him for his birthday this year a trampoline, and
Uh-huh.
so I got it all set up, which took forever to. Oh man, that's a story in itself. But so I get this trampoline set up, and I remember when I was in high school, I used to do like backflips and gainers and like a somersault and a half in the air, and I could just do pretty much anything. And so I was like jumping around, and I could barely do like a front flip, and it took long enough to get the height going that by the time I was done, I was out of breath. So I'm like, oh, forget it, I'm done with this
Yeah,
thing.
it's one of those things you just store as a memory. Like I used to be able to do such and such, and I was really good at it. Now it's up to you guys to do that. I'll just watch,
Yep,
and yeah, everything looks great. So, well, I'm glad to have you on the show, and everybody again, like
I'm
I
happy
said,
to.
I love to look at the studios because I like to see the space where you spend pretty much a majority of your time. And there's this giant microphone that I keep staring at. And I think
Oh,
it's because the camera is right there. So I'm getting a
yeah.
really big view of this microphone that I like it. So
No, I think you were hitting on me earlier when you're like, oh, what a big microphone you have. Like, well, I don't
I did
brag,
record that too.
but
It's kind of like an
oh,
outtake.
did you?
What big microphones you have there? It's a really big microphone. It's filling up the whole space of the camera, and it's all shiny. And yeah,
Yeah,
just
that's the
probably
one.
went way out there with that one. But
Actually, so
anyway,
I have two microphones. So there's this one right here,
uh-huh.
and I've got that one, and then I have this one over here, and I use them for different things. Like
Okay.
this little one right here is usually the one that I do like most of my narrating in my books for, and
Mm-hmm.
then depending on like if I have characters, then I'll use this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for like different, different kinds of characters. One is like more boomy sounding, and
Mm-hmm.
the other one is just like, more like straight, straight, no color and
Yeah. So that would
stuff.
be a condenser mic, and the other one would be like what? Like a, I don't know, just a
Yeah,
really nice shiny mic.
yeah. Well, they're both condensers.
Mm-hmm.
This one here, the one over here is called a shotgun mic,
Okay.
and it was actually used for if you ever see like like on set out on location when it's outside, you see the camera guy who's got this great big
Mm-hmm.
like a furry looking thing on
Yeah.
it. Well,
Uh-huh.
so they put microphones like this in there, and it's a directional microphone, so you can like aim it down at people who are talking and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll you'd be able to hear them more clearly. And so this guy named Ernie Anderson, who was like, if you heard his voice, you'd be like, oh, that guy. He was the voice of like all the '70s shows, like
Mm-hmm.
not on the Thornbirds, and then he was like the Love Boat guy, like tonight on the
Uh-huh.
Love Gopher got a hangnail, or whatever. So that's the microphone like he used, which they
Uh-huh.
never used for vocals before. And then once he started using it, everybody started using it. It'd be just like her. But so this is a good dialogue microphone, and this one over here is like it's got a nice round boomy sound. So
Mm-hmm.
so I
Okay.
use that as well.
And you have both of them on. Are you talking to us from both of those now, or what? Is it just the mic from your camera?
It's just the mic from the left hand side.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
this over here. I don't know the way that Skype is set up. I'm pretty sure it's the one on my left. So, but
Okay.
I'm not positive.
All right. Well, enough about your equipment because your equipment's
Okay.
great. And so I don't think I've had an opportunity to per se chat with you and find out about how you actually got here. A little known fact, you guys, he is on the radio, so I do know that much about you. But I know that there's some differences in actually being a radio personality and actually performing and doing audiobooks and voiceover. And so I want to know how you actually got into this part of the industry. Kind of, do you have a theatrical background and anything like that? Or did you just kind of stumble into it because somebody said, hey, you have a great voice. You should do audiobooks or you should be on the radio.
I kind of so I knew since I was 8 years old what I wanted to do, and I remember it's really weird. Like I remember it just like it was yesterday. My mom and my brother and I were driving down the street. My mom was driving, of course, and I was about 8, and my brother was telling my mom about this friend of his who uh, who worked or interned at a radio station.
Mm-hmm.
And as he was telling her, I thought to myself, oh, that's what I want to do. And just like from that moment on, I knew I wanted to be on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I got into radio right out of high school, and I worked like every shift and every format of radio stations. That's probably why I moved out of Albuquerque, because I ran out of radio stations to work for. But, so yeah, I hopped around the country, lived in California for a little while, and then Arizona for a bit, and now here I'm here in St. Louis, all working in radio. So I was in radio for about 25 years, and all this time I was doing commercials and things like that, and I always wanted to do audiobooks because I love to read.
Mm-hmm.
I think I read The Lord of the Rings when I was 10. And, from then on forward, that's, I just love to read. And then, of course, liking to do voiceovers, audiobooks was just like a natural thing. But,
Mm-hmm.
when I first was interested in it, it was like, if you didn't live in New York or Los Angeles or maybe Chicago, then you didn't get to do it, because
Mm-hmm.
you had to go into the studio, and they were looking for people with theater backgrounds, and it was a real, it was kind of like a closed thing. You had to be part of the reindeer games to get into it. So then, so I just kind of like, I kept it in the back of my mind, and I tried to hit up some authors that I knew. Like there's an author named Suzanne Brockman, who's man, what a great author. And she wrote military romance novels. And so we became friends, and I sent her a clip of one of her books, and she was real excited about it. And I thought, oh, this is great. This is my break into the business. And she sent it to her publisher, who then sent it to I guess the audiobook studio, and they said, no, we've got somebody already, and they just said, this is we'll take it from here. So I lost my opportunity, and it was a real bummer, because I was like, you guys, I could have done a good job. I thought I stood a chance. And but then I forgot about it after that, because I thought, well, that's just the deal. You have to be part of that small network. And then comes ACX, which is part of Audible, which is Amazon. And that's when I found out that independent authors, and now even like big publishers, can go directly to the narrators. And so I set up a profile. I record. I had to kind of cheat, and I just like read parts from books that I liked, until I had somebody who actually was interested in letting me read their book. And I mean, from then forward is just, I knew that was what I wanted to do.
So from an early age, you just knew that I have this voice, and this is what I'm going to do. And
no, actually, that was just the lucky part, because I was like, I was 8. I was 8 at the time.
You saw it in a vision. You heard it.
Nobody knew what was going to happen after they dropped, and my adult voice came in. So I mean, just luckily that I happened to have a kind of a deeper voice. But I guess my grandfather had a real deep voice. My dad did too, and my brother, his voice is deeper than all of ours. And but he never got into doing voiceovers or anything like that. He's driving a truck or something.
Oh, he's wasting that voice and not even using it. You guys need to do a book together.
No, I don't like him. He's kind of a jerk. What's that song that where the guy goes, "Should I fly to Los Angeles? Find my asshole brother." I probably shouldn't on your.
That's fine.
Wait, anyway,
after you say it, then you're like, "Oh wait, we don't have that sensor that bleeps you out."
And you've got the technology. You can like reverse it, like whip it around.
We'll ask Danielle to put a bleep sound in there.
Danielle, thank you for that in advance, and for what I may do in the next few minutes or so.
No, it's totally fine. So when you started in radio, did you find that helped you further along your career with doing audiobooks, or did you still feel like there were some other things that you needed to learn to kind of perfect performing a book?
Yeah, you know what? It's like it was good and it was bad being in radio, because one thing that, like, when I was doing commercials for advertising agencies, I would walk in. I learned fairly quickly not to let them know that I worked in radio, because radio people had this reputation for being like, well, they call it pukey, where they're like, hey, 5 after 4:05, and we're moving down the freeway. It's like fake sounding people. And I did kind of realize that I really didn't know how to act, because I got into acting from the other direction. Like most people who did audiobooks were like actors who did Broadway or film or something like that. And so it was a natural for them, and I had to kind of like relearn everything that I learned about being on the microphone. And so I took acting lessons, and I hired voice coaches and things like that. But it is easier though, because like you were talking about Christie's book, it's Hell's Gift. Well, so the cool thing about when you're a radio announcer and you're reading copy for a commercial, well, the copy is made by somebody who's paid minimum wage to pump out words and stuff and get the stuff done quickly. So it's not always naturally written stuff or stuff that sounds like what people would really say. But authors are professional writers, and they actually write great stories. So it's a lot easier to get into, acting out the parts when you have good material.
Yeah. And so when you so my background was in radio too, but I never actually worked at a radio station. I have the degree, and now I'm here doing podcasting. Um,
You have
so,
such a cool voice. I think that
oh,
you
thank
do. You
you.
have a really cute voice, like spun sugar,
Okay, that should be my new
like
hashtag, spun
uh,
sugar.
Jacques
That's
with the cotton candy voice.
I like it. That's cute. So, so when you decided that you were going to go into audiobooks, how long have you been, um, I guess, professionally recording books? When did you start? I know you said you kind of got into ACX. They're fairly new. They're not, they haven't been around 10 years or anything like that. So, did you come in on the cusp of when they first started, or were you kind of like in the middle?
I think close to the beginning. I don't know that there was, well. So it was close enough to the beginning that royalty shares were a lot better. Uh,
Ah.
what you did. Like it used to be that when I first started, it was a real simple formula. I think it was that ACX, Audible, Amazon would take like 50% of the proceeds, and then you and the author split the other 50%. So you got 25%, the author got 25%, and the
Mhm.
if you did a royalty share, and then Audible would get 50%, which makes sense because they're the platform for
Right,
that's where the book, where people come in to buy the books, and so
right.
yeah, so there's a lot of value there. But then I don't know, about a year, maybe 2 years after I started with them, was when they said, well, on second thought, we're going to take 60%,
Mm,
and the author and the narrator are going to split the last 40%. So now,
mhm.
if you do a royalty share, it's like you and the author split, get 20%, and then Audible gets 60%.
Yeah. So you make
Hopefully,
a,
it won't get
it's
any
like a
worse than that.
dollar, like a dollar, it
A
feels
dollar.
like.
Well, yes, and sometimes it is kind of like that, where it's like, you see your stuff come in, and you look through through each of the books. Like, you can track your books to see which ones are selling well and which
Mm,
ones are not. And some of them, like, people buy them on credits, and they have this whole tier structure for
mhm.
you know people who buy their books on credit versus people who buy their books one by one, people who have subscriptions versus people who just buy them a la carte, and so
Right.
forth and so on. So, like, that's like the expensive way. If you just like popped into Audible, bought a book without buying a membership, then you would pay like the full retail price
Right.
of like $24,
Right.
which would mean that, so what would that be, like $12? It'd be like $9 or $10 split between the author and the narrator, um, which is like best case scenario. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so you have to have, like, you have to kind of build your portfolio in order to start
Hmm.
making any
Yeah.
decent.
And so let's talk about your portfolio. So when you first started, did you already have an idea about what kind of genres you wanted to narrate, or were you just kind of, if it captured your attention, those are the ones that you wanted to do?
Yeah, I think it kind of still is that way. Like, if it captures my attention, then I want to do it. I know that some narrators have like different philosophies. Some will do like, I only want to be interested in this, and if it has my name on it, I want it to be really good. And other people will be
Mhm.
like, hey, if you're paying, I'm reading it.
Right.
And But either philosophy is fine. But I wanted to be interested in what I was doing, because it's a tedious job. When you're reading, like, it takes a couple hours to read what's going to turn out to be an hour's worth of material,
Hmm.
and then so it takes a couple of hours to do that, and then the editing takes another couple of hours on top of that. So by the time you get through all that stuff, you're like, oh man, I'm sick of my own voice. And so you kind of have to, for me, it needs to be interesting in order for me to do it. But luckily, I like everything. I like fantasy, like I mentioned, Lord of the Rings. I
Mm-hmm.
read every Stephen King book that he wrote until I kind of lost interest in Stephen King after probably about The Stand was when I was like, all right, well, I've had enough Stephen King. But I mean, I read all of his books up until then, so I loved horror. And
Mm-hmm.
then, I got into reading, biographies and historical stuff. So I love that stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So, it really is kind of cool. Like I can pick and choose and say, okay, so I want to do like I want to do a horror book, or like a zombie book, or next I want to do a romance book. And then,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like well, this time I want to do like a raunchy romance book. And
Raunchy romance.
yeah,
I like it.
yeah. So
So,
I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's nice to be able to like do whatever you want.
yeah, and so well, speaking of raunchy romances, so the thing is now that there are people who kind of cross genres when they narrate, and so they feel as if they're doing some of those um I'm going to say steamier or more erotic type books that they want to have a pseudonym so that it doesn't, for whatever reason, they decide that they want to do that. So, how are
Yeah.
you with the whole pseudonym thing? Are you I'm just Troy, I narrate under Troy, or I narrate under Troy, but I also have another name, or I narrate under Troy and I may or may not at some point have a pseudonym? Where you fall in that category?
All of them. So, all right, so let me get into the story. So basically, like in the beginning, when I did one title as a different pseudonym,
Uh-huh.
and I think what was the guy? So I came up with a name. Oh man, John
Oh gosh.
something or other. It was a vampire erotic book,
Uh-huh.
and I wasn't sure. I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe someday I'll run for president, and maybe I don't want like the steamier stuff. And then of course, okay, so and also my mom listened to audiobooks as well, and I thought, yeah, I do not want my mom listening to erotica that I read, and so I picked a pseudonym, and so I have one title under that, and if I wish I could remember, I can't. I mean, it was such a long time ago that I do have one under a pseudonym, and then but my mom passed away,
Mm.
and so now I can pretty much the only thing I would worry about is like I hope my kids don't get into audiobooks, and I mean they don't really seem like that's that's their thing.
They
So
may.
I yeah, if they do, then I'll just point them to like the more tame stuff that I've done.
They might
So,
like the raunchy romance books. You just well, of course, you don't want to think about your kids listening.
yeah, not with their dad. No,
That
that
would
would be
be
that would,
really awkward.
so I went to visit my daughter a little while ago. She lives in Texas, and she just moved there a little while back. And I went to she came she got married. They moved to Texas, and then so she had to fly back so that we could get their wedding presents and drive them back to Texas. So
Hmm.
she flew out. We drove together. Had a road trip to take the wedding presents back to their place, and I stayed with them for the rest of the week. And while they were on, the next Game of Thrones came in. And watch Game of Thrones?
Yes, of course. Who
Yeah.
doesn't?
Okay. All right. So do you remember? You remember when who was the captain of the Unsullied?
Really, you're
That
gonna
guy.
ask me names? Don't you know
Yeah.
how hard it is to
I don't
remember the
remember his name
names?
either. Okay. So and I'm terrible with the characters' names too. But anyway, so there's the captain of the Unsullied, and there's the oh man, why am I?
She's like the queen's right hand girl, the black girl with the
Yeah,
pretty hair, and they finally got it on.
Da-
Finally, sort of.
Daenerys, right? Is that her? So the
Oh,
blonde hair girl's name is
yeah.
Daenerys. I don't remember the yeah, but exactly that was the episode when they finally did it, right? I'm sitting there with my daughter and my brand new son-in-law, and we're watching Game of Thrones, and that's when they do
Yeah.
that. So I had to excuse myself and go. I went into the guest bedroom, and I was like on Facebook, and You know, until it was safe to come back out. So yeah, we don't do awkward moments. You know, when something racy comes on TV, then one of us has to
Excuse us.
yeah,
Oh my
make us
gosh.
we're scared.
You would be so uncomfortable with me and my mom. We chat about everything and watch everything, and my mom just has no filter
Oh
about
really?
anything. Her, my mom, my and throwing my grandmother in there, and you're
Yeah.
talking about just the new version of the Golden Girls.
Oh
That's what
really?
we are. Yeah,
Oh, that's funny. That's
it
funny.
can be.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like you and I have to just excuse myself and say, yeah, I don't want to talk about this with you guys. I don't want to picture that. Yeah, I can not unsee or unhear what you just said. So at least yours was
Yeah.
TV and they didn't hear you like, narrating some scene about,
I know.
that would be pretty interesting. So, okay, um so you're not using a pseudonym now.
Yeah, I mean, I
Okay.
probably wouldn't use a pseudonym. I mean, I can't imagine, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess, like a lot of times you would use a pseudonym if you do work for Disney or,
Mm-hmm.
some kind of like family channel or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, you want to be sure that like you keep those personas separate. It's not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
like you're, embarrassed of it, but, maybe somebody, wouldn't hire you. Like, let's say um, if I did like promo work for a bunch of Christian stations, well, they
Mm-hmm.
might not like the idea that I do, that I do erotica. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that might be a reason to
Right.
do that.
Right. That makes
So,
sense.
I mean, I don't see, I don't see a problem with it. I just don't necessarily see a real, and kind of the cat is out of the bag. Like I've got some titles that I have under my real name that, they're pretty, they're pretty racy. So,
Yeah. Okay. All right.
so,
Well,
almost done.
so how many titles do you currently have in your library?
So I think I'm up to 32.
32. And so, all right. So we need to
I used
do
to think that was a lot and then I started like hanging out in those forums with, on Facebook pages with, with other narrators, and they're like, yeah, I have 150 titles or 300 titles. I'm like, how old are you that you
a
could do like that many titles? But yeah, there's a lot of people who like really get on it.
Yeah, but you have you work full time, right? Or are you a full time, but you work and you're doing this as well. So it would
Yeah.
be kind of difficult for you to narrate, 20 books a week unless you're not sleeping and you're some robot or something.
Oh
Um,
yeah. And besides that, it's like and yeah, I do. So I do two radio shows, both of them jazz radio. One for a radio station on the East Coast, or actually in the Gulf Coast of Florida, and then another one in Sonoma County, California. And so I've got those two shows that I do, and then I do some other work for like concert commercials, and I do promo work for radio stations and some TV commercials and narrations and stuff like that. So that keeps me busy. But I'll tell you, like once, about an hour a day of audiobook is pretty much about all I can really do before I start getting kind of punch drunk and
mhm.
losing focus and concentration. I mean, I need to take a break and step out for a little. I get that 1,000-yard stare. So
Yeah.
so
So how
yeah.
much time do you normally spend like in your booth? You said you're in there about an hour and then you kind of have to get up. What's in there that would keep you like do you have snacks? I mean, I know some people have like water and stuff that they keep in there.
Uh,
Yours is do you have a fridge in there? Is there a mini
no,
bar I should know
great.
about?
No, I have. So, well, actually, so I've thought about having a coffee maker down here, but
Uh-huh.
purposely I leave my coffee maker upstairs so that I have an excuse to get up and go upstairs and stretch my legs and drink some coffee. But yeah, I mean, I'll bring snacks down, and like I love honey roasted peanuts, so I'll eat those and while I'm editing and stuff like that.
Yeah, honey roasted peanuts. That means I should send you some. I should find out what you guys like and just send you like a little snack pack. Here's something to keep you from falling asleep while you're editing because I know that can be a daunting task.
That
Um,
is tedious. Yeah.
Yeah, and so okay, so give me a mini tour. Just like you don't have to move the camera around. Do you have
Okay.
any windows? Are there windows in there in your
Yeah. Okay.
studio?
So if I'm going to move out of the way, right?
Okay.
So do you see? Okay, right there. There's like that big thing of that's foam that
Yeah.
I still have yet to tack that up, and then right above that, it's kind of hard to see, but like behind that, that is a window, but I've actually blocked it off with some foam
Okay.
for a couple of reasons. You know, number one, it's like that's a sound reflection, so I need to
Hmm.
install a different window at kind of an angle so that it doesn't, it doesn't reflect right back into the microphone. And then
Hmm.
right behind that, it might be kind of hard to see that as well, but that's my grandfather's flag
I
from
can
his
see it. I
from
can
his
see it.
funeral. That's from
Okay.
way back when he passed away back in 1991.
Okay.
But so really, that's kind of it. Now, like over here, you can't see it, but I've got my printer and a file cabinet. It's also where I put all my paperwork and stuff like that. So yeah, so I need a couch and
Yeah. And a
like a
fridge.
mini fridge. I think would be a good idea. You know, I could put some drinks and stuff like that in there. And I do like to drink whiskey while I'm like doing narrating and stuff like that.
Really? I remember you told me that that would help my voice. So maybe I should go for the whiskey.
Yeah, sometimes that helps. Like, and you can make it kind of soothing. Like, you could mix a little bit of sugar in it,
Hmm.
and it kind of it'll soothe your throat, but at the same time, it will, it kind of like if you've got a lot of phlegm and stuff like that, then it helps with that.
Yeah, I should check that out. And by the way, I like your chair. You have this whole
Oh
thing
yeah,
hold the neck. That's
yeah, my little
that's
thing. You know what? I had a like my on Facebook. I had my profile was me in this chair, and my girlfriend said, "No, you look like Christopher Reeves with
oh,
that
that's
chair like that."
terrible.
Yeah, I know. And
But it
and
looks comfortable. I bet it helps your neck.
yeah,
I
I hate this
like it.
chair.
It's
This
a I like it.
no, it's a terrible chair because it squeaks.
It
I don't
does
know.
make noise. I can hear it.
Yeah, it makes
Yep.
all sorts of noise, and I'm sitting there and like I'll be doing my my narration and talking, and it'll go creak, and so then I just stop and do something else.
Oh,
So I have a cat as well, and the cat makes noises too because she'll hang out with me, and then I'll be talking and she'll start meowing and then
yeah,
decide that she wants to get out, and so
yeah.
she makes some noise.
I have that trouble with my dogs too when to when I'm at the office and they come
Yeah.
in and then you can hear their feet and then I have a dog that snores and I'm like, really, I'm picking up that sound. Like you're not
Yeah.
supposed to be on this podcast, but
Yeah.
so I want to talk about what you're working on. You did send us a sample.
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
says in the company of snipers, book 4. I think the book is called, is it Harley?
Oh, you know what? No, it's not. So what I do when I'm recording stuff, I always set my I do my settings um, in
So you
the
gave me a fake
in
name?
the yeah, I did. I threw you for a loop.
But
So it's
no.
actually though it's the same author. Her name is Irish Winters,
Uh-huh.
and she has this series called In the Company of Snipers,
Okay.
and so it's pretty cool. It's like the group is called the Team,
Uh-huh.
and it's all these like they're Army Rangers and Delta guys and uh, Green Berets and recon guys and snipers.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so the leader, Alex, has put this whole team together, and they take care of like really, I don't know, they do a lot of like dangerous stuff. And so there's an adventure with each of the characters, but we get to know the characters one by one,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's kind of cool. So I've done like five, maybe let me I don't know, five or six of the different characters already, and I'm on to the sixth one. I'm looking on the in my page. Let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six. So there's seven so far, and I think there are about 15 characters. So I'm on
Wow.
to Rory, and he's the latest guy. And then there's one directly after that, and then and I'm also reading right now a book for Tantor, and that's like a post-apocalyptic gamer book. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, sounds good. So we're gonna listen to a clip that you sent to us, and this is for the character Rory, correct? Even
Yeah.
though I don't know who Harley is. Do you have a Harley bike and you just was thinking about your motorcycle at some point?
Oh,
It just says Harley
I,
on there.
I'm gonna buy a Harley.
You
I don't know.
should.
You're like reading my mind, but yeah, I've been thinking about buying a bike. But no, so Harley was one of the other guys on
Okay.
on the team. Rory is this guy, and this is actually like I did this kind of like with an ulterior motive because I wanted to get like some input from listeners to see how they because like the big challenge for a male narrator is to do like convincing female voices, and the big
Yeah.
challenge for females is to do like a good male. And
Right.
so I included one of the like most of the dialogue. Well, most of the dialogue is the narrator, but it's kind of like from the point of view from another one of the characters who's the heroine in this book. Her name is Ember.
Okay.
So
All right. Well, let's see how you did. Let's see how
all
it
right,
goes. All
wish
right.
me luck.
All right. Here we go.
Her cell phone vibrated at her waist. "Hey, Mother, what's up?" she answered in a hushed voice, her ears still trained on the water dripping off Rory. "You've got 2 vehicles approaching your 20, Mother barked. Ember jumped to her feet. "What? Where?" "Just turned onto your road. They're running dark and silent. Get out of that house. Now." Ember hit the bathroom door without thinking. She pushed it open. Gasped. She closed the door and opened it again. Oh, my. Oh, wowza. Oh, my. A deep voice rumbled through the steamy spray. "You need something?" She couldn't answer with her mouth hanging open. He was everything she'd imagined, only so much hotter in person. Drenched and steaming from the hot water, he stood with both hands against the wall directly under the shower head. All she could see was the perfect profile of everything. His tan ended at his belt line, his butt perfectly white. No way could this guy be gay, not with a manly butt like that. Could he? The only thing marring his perfect physique was the ragged red scar left from his near-death experience in Mexico last year. Ugh! Ember jerked her entire body backward into the hall, slamming the door behind her. She shouldn't have looked. Her heart pounded up high in her throat where it only climbed when she was scared, or excited, or totally amazed. Wow. How could she go back in there and face him now? How could she not? Assassins are on the way. For heaven's sake, move it. Gulping past her embarrassment, she pushed the door open and focused on what she needed to say, instead of the glorious view. "We've got to move," she croaked, her stern voice gone along with her good sense. "Now!" He wiped one quick hand across the fogged-up shower door. "Why?" She averted her eyes like she should have done in the first place. "Someone's coming. We've got to run." The glass door banged open and out he came, all 6'3" of an angry guy in the nude, jerking the nearest towel off the rack. She couldn't help it. She gulped and looked again. The man was ripped, his chest dusted with dark hairs that led downward to... Wow, more than enough to make any woman. "Don't just stand there." Stormy blues clashed with hers.
I always want to know how it feels when a guy has to narrate the thoughts of a woman looking at another guy.
Yeah. Well,
Talking about how nice his butt was.
yeah. Well, yeah. That's the thing. Is like you can't be self-conscious because you have to like put yourself into like the shoes or put yourself in the mindset of the character. So so you have to kind of like suspend disbelief, become that character.
But it's just funny because you have this like really manly voice, and it's like, and it's just like me thinking about her, but in your voice saying how nice his butt
Yeah.
was.
Well, that's the thing. And what you're hoping is like that the the listener is going to be involved in the story.
Yeah.
And kind of not really think about, oh, wait a minute, this is a dude talking. That they're just like in the story and and kind of like maybe putting themselves in that situation.
Yeah,
So
I mean that's kind of how it works. I tell people all the time that a man isn't really going to sound like a woman, and a woman isn't going to necessarily sound like a man. But what we do is we connect with what's happening and the emotion that they put behind it and the tone that they use, and that's kind of what we connect with, not so much the sound. And that's why, like when I was listening to you do it, I could really picture myself or somebody in that situation saying that, like, okay, I
yeah,
shouldn't have looked. Of course, yeah, I should have, and I'm really glad I did. And and so
yeah.
it makes it that much more fun. And so this is book 4 now. Did you narrate the other 3 books in the series, or was
Let's see.
it?
So let me read them off in order. I believe that it's Alex. He's like the leader of the team. So he was the first book, and then we had Zach, and then we had Mark, and then Harley, and
Mhm.
then Connor. And so those are the ones that are done so far.
Okay,
Now I'm working on Rory.
okay,
After Rory is going to come Taylor.
okay. So you're
So
on all of them.
yeah,
So
so
you
far
narrate. Okay, good. So that
she
gives
hasn't
us.
hired me yet.
Yeah, so we can go and start from the beginning, and then we can add Rory. And do you know how many books are going to be in the series?
I think there's like 15 or 16.
That's a lot. That's great.
16, yeah, yeah. It just keeps me busy. But
Yeah.
yeah, and each of the books are pretty, they're pretty well self-contained. So it's not like you don't have to know Alex's story in order to listen to Mark.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but it is very cool though. Like at least from my point of view, as I'm reading them, as I'm reading the one, like say I'm on Mark, and then they talk about, in Mark's book they talk about Ember,
Mm-hmm.
and she's a bit player in Mark's story, but now she is the heroine in this latest one. But
Mm-hmm.
I already know, like when they talk about Mark and when they talk about Alex, well, I already know those guys, and
Yeah.
so I mean, and I've got voices for all of them, and so I can kind of, I mean, it is pretty cool, and it's pretty neat to
And
get
do
to
you
know.
and how do you keep up with remembering who sounds like what? Do you have a cheat sheet?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes, like, so what I do is, as I'm reading through the book first, then I like to kind of picture the character in my mind, and then I try to come up with a voice for them. And once I come up with something that sounds like, okay, so that's the voice of the character, then I'll record like, I don't know, maybe a minute of one of their parts, and I just save that, and then I put together a Word document with the character's name, and then I hyperlink to to a file in my computer with their thing. So before I start recording, I'll listen to the character, the character that I came up with, and that way I can kind of keep them
Ah,
consistent.
that's good. You got all of that technology at your fingertips, and
Yeah,
so
and I
so
need.
now you said you keep your computer outside, and are you reading from, do you have a really big monitor that you read from, or do you have like a tablet or something like that that you're reading the story from?
Usually I just go off my monitor. Yeah, I've got
Okay.
I have two 23-inch monitors right behind you,
Hmm.
and there's one over here, which has got your picture on it, and then there's another one over here, which has like, that's where I put the porn, so you can't see that, but that's where my that's where I have all my files and my,
They're all combined in the same space.
yeah, so I can
Oh
I can
my.
I hide it real quick.
Oh man, there's so many things I can just go off of with that, but
And
I'm not going
that's the real reason why I've got that window blocked off, so my neighbors don't get to like peek in, and get free porn off of me.
I'm like,
Like
what is he
they can't steal
doing?
my connection, they can't steal my porn.
It's like you can't, there's no need for you to narrate porn. What are you
Yeah,
doing with Not that I
no,
know. I don't know anything about porn, so
mhm, yeah,
just
I
but
know.
anyway.
Between you and me.
You're so funny. All right, so we are wrapping up here. Again, everybody, season 3 of the Feature Voice. We're here with Troy Duran, and it has been such a pleasure chatting with you. And I cannot wait to go and to check out the other books in your library just so that I can hear your voice. And before we go, are there any specific genres that you have not narrated yet that you're kind of would be excited to do in the near future?
You know what? I think what I would like to do next is I'd like to do something a little racier again. Because I mean I like everything that I've done. I've done zombie books. I've done adventure books. I've done just a little bit of everything. And these books here are they're fairly they're not that's about as racy as they get. These ones, so they're pretty cool. I mean that's something that I could say, yeah, Mom, you could read, you could listen to that. It wouldn't be too embarrassing, but. But I do like, I mean, I think that I'd probably like to get like a good, a good, I don't know. I'm not thinking like necessarily erotica, but something a little racier,
a little kinky. Yes, we call it
a little
kink.
edgy. Yeah, a little more kink, a little more edge. It would
I
be
got you.
kind of fun.
The non-mom approved listen to books. I got it. I got you. I'm fist bumping the screen. You can't see it, but there you go. Yeah. That's perfect, just like that. So, authors, if you are listening, Troy is available. I feel like I'm doing an auction. Troy is available for hire.
That's my opening bid. Let's get this out.
We're starting the opening bid at no, but honestly, if we have persons that are listening and are interested in connecting with you, tell them the best way that they can reach you, either through social media or through a website or something like that, and where they can also hear a couple of your samples.
Yeah, you know what? That probably be the best thing. It's like if you go to troyduran.com or troyvoice.com/narrate, then that's a link to my audiobook website.
Okay.
So yeah, you can get me there. You can get me there, or you can just send me an email. td@troyduran.com should get it.
All right, and it's Duran, like Duran. So if you're from the '80s and you know who Duran is. Or
Roberto Duran. You remember him?
No.
The boxer,
Roberto Duran?
Oh, that's so funny. So here's the thing. I've got I have like 12 years on you. So it is kind of funny when I'm talking to somebody how they like when I say my last name Duran, they'll say, they'll either go like Duran, which means they know the 80s band Duran. Or if they're older, if they're like closer to my age, they'll go, oh yeah, no mas. And that's so there's like one of the legendary boxing rivalries. Well, I mean, it was like right up there with Ali and Frazier and Foreman was Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran. You had Leonard and Hagler. That was a great matchup. And then you also had Leonard and Roberto Duran. And after their final fights, I just dropped my headphones on the ground. But so after their final fight, Roberto and Leonard, because they were knocked down, drag out. They by the end of these things, these guys were both really beat up. And so at the end of the fight, they hugged, and Roberto said, "No mas." And so that was his way of saying, "I'm done fighting you." And so anyway, yeah. They'll either say Duran or Roberto Duran's no mas.
See, I'm gonna stick with the '80s. I've never been a big fan of boxing. It just seems like people just ruin beautiful faces that way, and faces are not meant to be bashed in. They're to be loved and appreciated.
Except for Freitas, he was always pretty.
Yeah, well,
his face was always so pretty.
Always so pretty. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
That was what he said when, like, he would say, my face is always so pretty. You can't hit me. I float like a butterfly.
Oh, yeah. Sting like a bee. See, I know that part. That's the extent of my boxing. Outside of that, I don't know anything about boxing. So, over my head. 80s though, if we did anything that involved the 80s, we're good with that. And before we go, because I did this with the last person, I have to have you do a tongue twister, and you
Okay.
have to do it in the accents that I give you. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Are you comfortable with that?
Well, let's see what you got, and then I'll tell you.
All right. So your tongue twister is, and hopefully you know this one. It's really easy.
Okay.
Are you ready? It's no need to light a night light on a light night like tonight. Can you remember that?
You kidding me? No need to light a night light on a night like what? No need to light a
no need to light a night light on a night light like tonight.
On a night light like tonight?
No need to light a night light on a light night like tonight.
No need to light a night light. No need to
we might not even get to the accent.
No need to light a night light on a light night like tonight. Okay.
That's it. All right. Can you give it to me in, my favorite is Cockney.
Oh shoot. Okay, so Cockney would be like I'm trying to think of like the Beatles, right? I mean, are they Cockney?
I don't know.
No need to light a night light on a light night like this.
You just renamed the whole.
That's my Cockney Australian, South African / Irish one. How's that?
I think you changed the whole thing at the end.
I did.
You did.
I thought I did it perfect. What did
you said? No need to light a night light on a night like this, and I was like, that's not it.
Oh,
it's
crap.
on a night night like tonight. Oh gosh, that's awful.
No need to light a night light on a light night like this.
See,
that's Australian.
There's no this at the end.
I didn't do it. Oh, I didn't. Crap. You know what? Let me tell you, Jacques. I smoked a lot of pot when I was in high school, and I think I did a lot of. I did something. I drank a lot, and I did like most everything that you don't want your parents to know. My hair's a mess. When most like the things that you don't want my parents to know about, I did it, and so I blame that. And so like I did play football in high school too, and I broke my nose twice, and but I think like concussions were part of that too. So I'm just lucky I remember my own name.
Oh my gosh! So we'll blame all of that from your youth on why you could not get the ends.
Why I failed the test, and I did it in like 14 different dialects at the same time. It really takes me a long time to get a dialect going. Like I had to go to classes. I had to hire a tutor to help me learn to do a French accent for.
Do French then. But you can just do Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in French.
Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, how I wonder what you are, high above me, up in the clouds. See, so bad I can't even remember that little nursery rhyme.
I'm laughing so hard. This is funny.
I'm useless. It's totally useless.
It's great looking at your facial expressions when you do them, though. So that's a thumbs up for me. So that was fun.
All right.
Okay. All right. Troy,
Jacques, I have to tell you, thank you for everything you do. I mean, you're like the hardest working girl in show business, and I always see you participating on the Facebook pages, and you're always putting something up interesting and reaching out to narrators, and you're talking to authors and keeping people up to date on what's happening. I mean, the listeners have just got to love you because you do such a great job of bringing audiobooks to the listening public. So I mean, I think you really deserve a lot of kudos for what you're doing. You do a lot for this industry. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Troy. That makes me feel like what I'm doing is not in vain, and it's all about helping people in the community, and so that's my goal. That's what I'm here for. So, and
Yeah.
you are
Yeah, just a
welcome.
good.
You're welcome to come back anytime. So I'm sure we'll be speaking with you sometime next year.
Oh,
Are you going to be doing any appearances? Are you going to any conventions or anything like that next
no,
year?
I've been thinking about that. I think that would be kind of cool. It's I didn't really think about it, before because I thought, well, there's author conventions, but then now there's a lot of stuff where narrators get out,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that would be kind of neat. Like I've got, so Christy is, I think she's planning on doing some signings. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I thought that would be kind of cool to like meet some of the authors face to face. I mean, all of the stuff that I do is over the interwebs. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think I'll try to keep up with the conventions going on, and maybe I'll even get to meet up with you at
You
the at
will. I will.
yeah.
I will get in touch with you and let you know when I'm going to be back in your area. There'll be some events out there, or at least close by, that you can get to. We can meet up. I can introduce you to some people, and we can get some networking in. And I'll treat you to some whiskey.
We'll get crunk and make the town. It'll be cool.
After we meet with the authors.
Right, right. We'll be respectable, and then we'll sneak out, put on disguises.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how that works out. All right. Thank you so much for being on the show. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of The Featured Voice. Be sure that you follow us on Facebook at The Audio Flow, and also on Twitter at _audio_flow, and also on Instagram at The Audio Flow. This episode will be streaming live on iHeartRadio as well as TuneIn. You can also download episodes on iTunes and Google Play, and as always on YouTube if you just like to watch the scrolling picture go by because there's no faces. I'd also like to thank my producer and editor Danielle for everything that she does, and also my assistant Rebecca for keeping me straight-laced. Let's just go with that, and keeping my schedule together. Until next time, everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you on next week. And remember, listen to the featured voice, because everybody's voice deserves to be heard. Thanks so much for joining us for this week's episode of The Featured Voice. Be sure you tune in next week as we chat with T.J. Richards. For this and upcoming information on The Featured Voice, be sure to follow us on Facebook at The Audio Flow, also on Twitter at _audio_flow, or Instagram at The Audio Flow. Until next time, have a great week.